Adriatic Metals is a precious and base metals company that owns the world-class Fareš silver project in Bosnia and Herzegovina. It is the only company presenting today that is working on a discovery in Europe. Adriatic returned 72 metre of polymetallic mineralization with a rock value of over $1,100 per tonne, a truly world-class discovery hole in 2018. Paul Cronin, co-founder and CEO of Adriatic Metals, has over 20 years of experience in corporate finance, investment banking, funds management and commodity trading, with a strong European mining focus. Paul Cronin, presenting Adriatic Metals.
Willem, this is the only company presenting that is actually in Europe.
Yes, that makes it a very special discovery. There's not that much metal discoveries in Europe. In Spain, there's some interesting situations as well. This is in Bosnia. Well, let's hear the presentation.
Okay.
And then afterwards we talk about it.
Yes, we'll have Paul Cronin live with us after his presentation, which is pre-recorded.
Thank you to Willem and Terence for inviting me here to the Discovery Commodity Fund annual meeting of its investors. Adriatic Metals was invited to present here last year, an event we enjoyed tremendously, and we're very honoured to be invited back again this year to give you an update on the progress of our company and what we've achieved in the last 12 months. For those of you who don't know Adriatic Metals, we are a UK registered, UK and Australian listed silver developer with a polymetallic project in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I'm very pleased today to announce that all of the conditions precedent have been met for our next adventure into Serbia, where we will be completing on the acquisition of Tethian Resource Corp in the coming days. The story of Adriatic is a very simple one. We were presented with an opportunity to acquire an interesting but underexplored project in Bosnia. Since we made that acquisition in 2017, we have invested over 35 million Australian dollars into the project. For every dollar that we've invested in this project, we've added $15 in value. The Fareš project in Bosnia and Herzegovina is quite unique. It's incredibly high grade, it's blessed with great infrastructure, it's in a jurisdiction that is favourable to mining, and we've managed over the last 3 years to build a very, very capable team of people who have been able to take this project forward in a very rapid but very successful manner. We have tremendous land holdings now in Bosnia, having extended our concession. We've had robust funding, we've completed our scoping study, we've done a maiden resource and an updated resource since I was last here. And of course, as I mentioned, we've acquired Tethian Resources. Tethian Resource Corp has a fantastic land package in southern Serbia that we were intrigued by. The company was missing two key elements of that land package, which they secured in March. And during the peak of the COVID crisis earlier this year, we made an offer to the company to merge, which we're very grateful that they accepted. And we're looking forward to having all of the Tethian shareholders as Adriatic shareholders in the coming days. But let me just talk about where we are. The Balkans sits on the fringe of Europe, but it is blessed with some of the most prolific mineral deposits in the world. Both Bosnia and Serbia have fantastic infrastructure, rail links to existing smelters and to the seaborne ports in Croatia and Montenegro. Serbia itself hosts many Tier 1 deposits and has major mining companies operating such as Rio Tinto, Zinjan Mining, Dundee Precious Metals, Fortuna Silver and many others. There is a strong history of mining in the Balkans, both in Bosnia and Serbia. Bosnia has a clear and concise mining code. It is a stable democracy, it has very low tax rates at 10%, is a business-friendly environment to operate in, and we enjoy strong public and government support for the work that we're doing there. Serbia refreshed its mining code in 2015. It again has very favourable fiscal regime and is a candidate for EU accession relatively soon. But let's start talking about our core asset. Our core asset is the Vares project, located about 55 kilometres north of Sarajevo. You access it from Sarajevo Airport by a motorway and then sealed roads all the way to the Vijevaca project site, where in 1982, a Yugoslav government-owned corporation created the Vijevaca lead, zinc and barite mine. That mine was shut down in the late 1980s, and at the same time, the same company was doing extensive exploration work on an area called Rupica, about 12 kilometres as the crow flies from the old Vijevaca plant. It was Rupica that caught our attention. We saw that they were drilling there, but they were forced to stop due to the outbreak of hostilities in Bosnia. And all of that data we have now recovered. We have done our own confirmation drilling programs. We have put a very, very substantial resource on the project, and we have put a scoping study in place as well, whilst we are currently working on our pre-feasibility study, which is due out imminently. But let's talk about the scoping study. The scoping study was based on 9.4 million tonnes of resources at Rupica and 7.4 million tonnes of unexploited resources at the Vijevaca open pit. Mining Rupica first, and then after 10 years of mine life, beginning to mine the Vijevaca pit area. The scoping study economics show an NPV 8, so 8% discount rate of $916 million US, with upfront capital of only $178 million US, providing an internal rate of return of 107%. These are compelling economics indeed. Off the back of that scoping study, we successfully raised the funding that we need to complete the pre-feasibility study, the ESIA, and the definitive feasibility study, as well as continue with a very expansive program of exploration in the country. But our focus recently has been on the pre-feasibility study. In the pre-feasibility study, we've looked at all of the areas of the scoping study, and we've looked at potential areas for optimisation. We've looked at our reagent optimisation and usage. We've looked at the flow sheet to get the best possible flow sheet to create the concentrates we want to produce. We've done various work on geometallurgical domaining and grade recovery models. And we have now designed a mine plan which we believe will give us 10 to 12 years of production from Rupica. That will mean that the economics exceed those of the scoping study. But in doing so, we've managed to de-risk the project substantially. Our new updated resource of 12 million tonnes at Rupica, grading at just under 500 grams a tonne of silver equivalent, has been done in a manner that gives us great confidence in the mine plan that we've put together. We've done significant modelling of our reserves. We've done significant work on our mine design. We've confirmed with additional metallurgical test work the recoveries for each different mine unit, so that we know when we turn that plant on that it will produce the concentrates that we are expecting it to produce, and those concentrates will deliver the returns to our shareholders that we're expecting. We've also done a lot of work on logistics. We've done a lot of work on marketing and offtake, and we've made substantial cost improvements to the project by localisation of costs, utilising the low-cost jurisdiction for which we operate, which will have an impact on our operating costs. We've managed to get a flow sheet that will reduce our capital costs. We're also seeing benefits in terms of the flow of ores into the plant, the recoveries of those metals, and also in reduction in some of our treatment charges that we had assumed from the smelter. Overall, we believe this will have a very positive impact on the pre-feasibility study, and I look forward to sharing that with you in a very short period of time. So let's start talking about our new resource. We upgraded our resource only several weeks ago to 12 million tonnes, as I mentioned, grading on average just under 500 grams a tonne of silver equivalent. But the resource is still open. We're still drilling to the southeast where we continue to hit mineralisation. We understand structurally a lot more about the deposit than we did a year ago. And we know now that we can identify the correct characteristics that will show us the potential for repeats of Rupice mineralisation across our concessions. A few weeks ago, we announced that we extended our concession area to almost 10 times the current area, which will enable us to expand our exploration program next year, in particular, to focus on finding repeats of that Rupice-style mineralisation. We've also made tremendous progress on our permitting in country. As I said earlier, the mining code in Bosnia is relatively clear. There's a defined process that we have to follow, and we're following it. Since I last spoke to you, we've had our reserves reports approved by the government, we've had our site plan approved by the government, our equipment list, our employee qualifications, we've received our preliminary water permits, and most importantly, we've received our environmental permit for the Via Vacca open pit, plant area and tailings facility. We have our land use agreements in place for the Via Vacca operations, and a little over a month ago, we had our first public hearing on our Rupice, and we expect that that permit will be forthcoming very shortly as well. We understand what we need to do. We have a very, very cooperative approach with government in Bosnia, whether it be at the Federation, the canton or the municipality. And we're all working hand in hand to bring these permits together so that we can commence construction of this project mid-next year. But I also want to talk to you now, with completion of the Tethyan acquisition only days away, of why we bought this project. As I mentioned earlier, Fabian Baker and the team at Tethyan Resource Corp have put together a unique and rare land package in southern Serbia. We see enormous potential there. And we have recently completed a confirmation drill program which confirms what we were thinking was in that deposit. There is historical resources there at the Kizovac project of over 6 million tonnes, grading on a zinc equivalent basis of around about 10%. The project is near surface. The deposit is near surface. The mineralisation is very clean. The metallurgical test work that's been done indicates that this will be a very low-cost operation to produce very clean, saleable concentrates. The project itself has been designated for mining by the Spatial Planning Ministry in Belgrade and has the strong support of the Ministry of Mines in Belgrade. But we recognise that the historical exploration that was done at the Kizovac project was a bit like what we saw in Vares at Rupice. The drilling was not completed, it was shallow, and there's an opportunity for us to now go in there and significantly expand those resources. Our first drill holes at the Kizovac project are now complete, and we have just commenced a substantial expansion program of 12,000 metres, which will be aiming to complete between now and the end of 2020. There will be significant amount of drill hole data and drill hole releases coming out of that project over the next few months, and I look forward to sharing those with you. But what we have seen from the drilling that we have done is that, as we suspected, the drilling at Kizovac was not deep enough. We've extended mineralisation at depth, we've confirmed the high-grade mineralisation that was in that historical resource, and we've also confirmed that there are parallel structures to the southwest of the existing strike at Kizovac that require follow-up drilling. And that follow-up drilling has now commenced, and the first drill holes on that will be out within several weeks. That's the Kizovac project. However, the Raska district and the land holdings that Tethyan Resource Corp has in Serbia, and now, by nature of the acquisition, Adriatic Metals has, are extensive. There's also an historical resource at the Sestaci project to the north of Kizovac. And Sestaci is referred to in many historical texts and texts by geologists in the region who refer to its high-grade content. We'll also be drilling that in 2020. We know that there are a number of very, very prospective areas on those licences. Drilling that was conducted historically by Phelps Dodge intersected 8 metres at 108 grams per tonne silver, 3.4% zinc and 7.1% lead, as well as a 4-metre interval of 229 grams a tonne silver, 11% zinc and 9.2% lead. None of that drilling has been followed up. Our most recent drilling at Kizabach returned 12.9 metres at 8.2% zinc, 98.3 grams a tonne silver and 4.1% lead, with a small amount of gold giving about a 15.4% zinc equivalent. And there are broader intervals of high-grade mineralisation. But the most important thing to remember about Kizabach is that it's all near surface. This will be an open pit project with a low strip ratio, and we believe that on that 1.2 kilometre strike length, we can delineate substantially more resources than what was indicated in the historical resource completed in the 1990s. We're very proud of the assets that we have and the way we've moved them forward. We know that we can add substantial value to our company and by default to our shareholders as we continue to progress on our low-cost, value-adding approach to exploration and as we continue to demonstrate the value of these core projects. But where we are also investing a lot of time is in our ESG profile. At Adriatic, we recognise the need for a strong social licence very early. We recognise the need to build a culture within our staff that is sustainability-based and focused. To do that, we have a very simple message that our core staff must relay to new staff coming in about the 4 foundations of our company, about our community, sustainability, our people and our environment. We brought in a very experienced ESG consultant over a year ago to help us plan that pathway. And that pathway to world-class environmental and social sustainability is being implemented through a number of different programs that the company is undertaking at the moment. For example, our HR program is designed to recruit and train locally. And we've recently appointed a global human resources development firm to work with us on creating that culture and creating those skills that we need in Bosnia. We've also working on our procurement policy. How do we buy local? How can we find what we need? And how can we encourage new companies to come to our region, to come to our municipality and create the products that we need to buy through our mine life in the municipality of Vares? How do we create a sustainable economy in Vares that will survive well after the completion of our current mine life projects? To do that, we've implemented a number of initiatives already, and we're very pleased that earlier this year we were voted Bosnia's best foreign investor in the energy and resources sector. Those values and that ESG framework that we've been implementing at Adriatic Metals since 2017 is driven by the strength of our board and our management team. At Adriatic, our board is led by Michael Rawlinson, former head of metals and mining for Barclays Bank in London. We also have on the board Julian Barnes. Julian is a geologist, was the former head of exploration for Dundee Precious Metals when it was paving the way in the Balkans for companies coming into this region and conducting exploration. We also have Peter Bilby, who is currently the chairman of Independence Group, one of Australia's most successful mining companies. Sandra Bates joined our board last year. Sandra is an Australian and British lawyer who has tremendous experience in corporate finance and M&A and understands the resources sector well. And more recently, we've added Snella Karic to our board, again, a lawyer, Sarajevo-based, Sarajevo born and bred, who understands the Bosnian culture, the Bosnian people, and more importantly, is extremely well connected through her high-profile role at one of Bosnia's largest companies. But let's look at the reason why we're all here today. When Adriatic listed on the Australian Stock Exchange in May 2018, we listed at 20 cents a share. Since then, our share price has gradually increased as we've continued to add value. Our share price today is over $2, and we've got a fantastic share registry of a good mix of founders, of staff, of institutional funds, and retail investors. We've kept our share structure tight. We don't have a lot of warrants or options outstanding. All of our options are those that have been issued to staff. And we're very pleased with the progress of the company in terms of its status, a leading investment vehicle for the mining sector in Europe. So to sum up on who we are, Adriatic Metals, a multi-commodity, multi-project focused explorer and developer. All of our projects will have very attractive economics. They're in high-quality jurisdictions. There are excellent operational synergies between the projects, which we intend to exploit as we develop the Kizilbac project over the course of this year and next. We've got a diversified portfolio of both development assets and exploration assets, and if I'm lucky enough to be presenting to you next year, I'll be able to change that to producing assets and development assets. We're in a very low-cost operating environment, and we've been fortunate to have very robust funding. In Bosnia and in Serbia, the infrastructure is phenomenal. We are blessed with railway lines, we are blessed with power, we're blessed with water. And all of those factors have made Adriatic a tremendous success and will continue to see Adriatic be a success in the future. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for this, Paul. I think you're live available now as well for the Q&A. Welcome.
I am. Thanks, Willem.
Wonderful to see you. I always think your story is a little bit misunderstood by North American investors because you're an Australian guy, you live near Oxford, your project is in Bosnia in Europe, and you're listed in Australia. That's confusing.
Yeah, well, we're also listed in London. But I think, as you probably know, Australian exploration companies don't do particularly well on the London Stock Exchange. You have to get to a decent size. And so we were listed on the ASX, and then about 18 months later, listed on the London Stock Exchange, which is our natural home.
Okay. One of the questions after or during your presentation was the PFS. It was due this week. What's the status?
We're working very hard to finish that off. There's been a number of work streams that are all coming together at the moment, and we look to have that out very shortly.
Okay. Another question was regarding the barite. You have a polymetallic deposit. There's a lot of silver to be found, but also barite. What's barite? Please tell us.
Yeah, so barite is primarily used in the oil and gas industry. But there are also industrial use for automotive industries, paint, medicine, etc. It's quite a unique market. Our focus has been trying to access each part of that market in terms of the work that we've been doing on our marketing studies and our metallurgical test work. But it doesn't contribute a lot to our underlying profitability. The reality is silver and gold contribute more than 50% of our revenue line, even after the recent plunge in silver prices. And then the second biggest contributor is zinc.
So what's the value of the barite in the project? It's a few percent only?
I think you'll find that barite makes a net contribution of about 7%.
Okay, I think our connection is
It's like
not...
my internet connection is being typically Bosnian.
Yeah, oh yeah, okay. Well, we'll leave it for this.
Yes,
huh?
we'll leave it.
Yeah.
We'll leave it here. We've got to move on. We've got a tight schedule. Thank you very much, Paul Cronin, Adriatic Metals. Thank you.